G'day folks, it's Techman Pat here. Welcome to the Dirt Report Tech and Telco news from all around Australia. Today we have some updates from the Optus debacle. No fooling around today, let's jump right in. But as always, tap the like button and subscribe to support us. Let's roll the intro. This week, Optus CEO Kelly Bayer Rosmarin spent 2 hours in front of the Senate inquiry into the most recent service outage. 2 hours sounds like a long time, but Christopher Nolan would disagree and tell you that it's only Act 1. Plenty of questions were flying by, so let me share some highlights with you. On the topic of Ms. Bayer Rosmarin being criticized for not fronting the public early during the outage, she said her reasoning for that was because she focused on prioritizing the team's actual crisis response. She said, given how little information we have about the cause and potential restoration time, that we could at least rule out the possibility of malicious activity to reassure our customers and the nation. She said she wanted to wait it out until she had all the information at hand. The Senate raised concerns about small business having difficulty accessing the Optus Small Business Hotline. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin said they will look into it. Now, in a more spicy comment, Senator Cadell asked, given all the issues plaguing Optus, is it time for new leadership at Optus? Then Senator Sarah Henderson asked Ms. Bayer Rosmarin if she was planning to resign as the boss of Optus, citing a report in the Australian Financial Review. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin said she was not aware of the reports and said she has not had the time to be thinking about myself. She repeated that she remains focused on her team, the customer, and the community. In regards to compensation to businesses, Ms. Bayer Rosmarin said so far 8,500 customers and small businesses have reached out to Optus over the outage seeking compensation. They are discussing around $430,000 in compensation, and $36,000 has already been applied or paid out. Now, to clarify, Senator Pocock asked if that's in cash or in-kind services like additional data that has been provided. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin says she will have to double check. We have seen that the extra data compensation did not go down well with customers, with lots letting people know on social media once they were reconnected how unhappy they were with that compensation. Furthermore, Senator Hanson-Young requested that it needs to be clear if the $36,000 was paid out in services or cash terms, given the outrage over the additional 200 gigs of data offered as compensation. On a side note, Ms. Bayer Rosmarin disclosed that she has 3 backup SIM cards to ensure she has coverage in case of an outage. Let me know in the comments below if you are now going to have 3 SIM cards in your own home in case of an outage. Senator Ross Cadell asked whether Optus will release the full investigation and report into cyber attacks that hit the telco last year. You see, Deloitte was tasked with preparing the report, but there has been no sign of it being publicly released. And last week, Optus lost a court bid to keep the report secret into the cause of the cyber attack. Optus had wanted to claim legal privilege to keep the report secret, but that was overruled by the federal court. Now, Senator Cadell asked whether Optus would consider appealing the court ruling to release the report publicly. Now, Ms. Bayer Rosmarin responded saying the report contains lots of sensitive information about Optus's cybersecurity measures and that it is risky to release. She also pointed the ongoing legal investigation and says the team is considering whether to appeal the decision to release it. Now, onto a few more serious things. Optus says 228 000 calls were unable to be made during the outage. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin said Optus had full faith that people would still be able to call 000 during the outage. She also said that Optus conducted a welfare check on all those 228 people and said everybody was okay. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin says the 000 system should be able to pick up calls from Optus customers from other networks because of how the 000 system fundamentally operates. To that, Senator Hanson-Young said, sounds like you want to share the blame around. Ms. Bayer Rosmarin replied that Optus takes responsibility for the outage, but that 000 should have been able to help Optus customers during the outage. She suggests that there should possibly be a change made to the broader 000 system, but Optus is committed to investigating the issues on their end. Optus Managing Director of Networks Lambo Kanagaratam has been answering technical questions about the outage, specifically of the engineers and their initial processes. During the questioning, Senator Hanson-Young asked what time Optus was able to rule out a cyber attack as the cause. Mr. Kanagarattam says he knew it was not a typical disrupted attack early on, but it was only at 10:20 a.m. that he let Ms. Beyer-Rosmarin and the team know that they were pretty confident the outage wasn't the result of a cyber attack. His testimony matches what Ms. Beyer-Rosmarin stated on waiting for all the information since the outage started at around 4 a.m. With no more public hearings scheduled, it looks like this will be it. The CEO of Optus thanked the Senate for their time, and that was it. So you see, Optus is required to respond to other questions that it did not during the Senate hearing by the 24th of November, and the report from the committee will be released on December the 9th. So what was the cause of the outage then? In the submission to Senate Standing Committee on an Environmental and Communication document specifically relating to the Optus network outage, linked below of course. In the first few pages, Optus outlined their role for the Australian telecommunication industry and an overview of their network, and then the post-incident analysis totaling 21 pages. According to the document, default settings in its Cisco-provided Edge PE router are to blame. This comes as a clarification of a previous explanation that an international peering network had fed it bad data. That international network was touted to be Singtel. Reports over the week said that Singtel Internet Exchange was partially identified for the cause due to a software upgrade. However, Singtel disputed that account on Thursday. Instead, more correctly it seems, identified preset fail-safe mechanisms in Optus's routers as the cause, an account Optus confirmed in this report. More specifically, Optus said it is now understood that the outage occurred due to approximately 90 PE routers automatically self-isolating in order to protect themselves from an overload of IP routing information. These self-protected limits are a default setting provided by the relevant global equipment vendor, drumroll please, Cisco. I don't think they're playing the blame game, but just explaining. This unexpected overload of IP routing information occurred after a software upgrade at one of the Singtel Internet Exchanges known as Styx in North America, which is one of Optus's international networks. During the upgrade, the Optus network received changes in routing information from an alternative signal peering router. Now, these routing changes were propagated throughout multiple layers of IP core networks, and as a result, at around 4:05 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, the preset safety limits on significant number of Optus network routers were exceeded. Although the software upgrade resulted in the change in routing information, it was not the cause of the incident. Now, restoration required a large-scale effort across more than 100 devices in 14 sites nationwide to facilitate the recovery, and this was done site by site. This recovery was performed remotely and also required physical access to several of the sites. Optus said a team of 150 engineers and technicians were directly involved in the investigation and restoration. Well done to all. They were of course supported by another 250 staff and 5 vendors. Now, these are people like us doing their job. Well done to all for restoring it in the time that it took. So after all, a lot of people on red alert, and although 98% of the RANA sites were restored by 2 p.m, they did declare the network outage closed by 4 p.m. However, there were some intermittent connectivity issues for approximately 9,000 NBN customers throughout the night, with teams working overnight to restore those services. Lastly, Optus said they were in direct and regular contact with key members of our government, their departments and relevant regulators from early Wednesday morning. They also specified these interactions span around 60 over the course of the day. And at the end of the document, you get a nice summary of the day's event, linked below if you'd like to read through it. I'm sure some of you actually lived it. So there you have it, folks, the Senate inquiry, the actual cause of the Optus outage, and we're gonna end the episode there. Post your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of the resolution? What did you think of the compensation that people have received? Will you change providers, or was this nothing but a big overblown situation? You didn't have to check Facebook for a day, or were you severely affected? Lots and lots of comments I saw on the past videos where people were having a terrible day. Some people didn't even notice because they only just woke up at 4 p.m. Maybe on shift works, whatever. In any case, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you below, and I'll see you on the next one.